What's going on, everybody? It's Pete from Talk Tech. I wanted to go ahead and do another video in my Troubleshooting Linux series. So these are a little bit more informal, just me jumping into the command line and troubleshooting an issue that I personally ran into. So let me go ahead and give you a little bit of context on the issue that I'm facing. So I normally, at the desk that you're seeing me here, this is where I do my daily work. This is where I do my streaming, my video recording and all that good stuff. But ever since I got the standing desk, my dog no longer likes to hang out with me in my living room. She used to lay over on the couch, but she has since ceased doing that. Now she goes and lays in the bathroom. And I'm just like, dog, you don't need to go all the way to the bathroom. So I just feel bad. I feel like she's alone and stuff like that. So I want to make sure I'm able to spend time with her. And, one thing I definitely don't mind doing is doing work from the couch. The issue that I run into, though, is I'm working on a 14-inch MacBook Pro, and yeah, it's great. It has all that power, but 14 inches does limit the amount of space that you have available to multitask. Yeah, I can do two windows side by side, but if I want to go to like a four split window, oh, it starts to get tough, and it just gets a little annoying. So one of the things I've been contemplating on was getting an additional laptop to work on my couch. Um, Originally, I was like, yeah, maybe I'll get a MacBook Pro 16-inch, and then I looked at the price. I was like, for a decent one, I'm gonna have to pay 3,500 to 4 grand. And I was like, nah. I'm like, yeah, of course I'd get some trade in for my current MacBook Pro, which is probably like 1,500 bucks or something like that, which still isn't bad, but still that leaves me paying an additional $2,000 out of pocket, and I kind of just been mulling over ideas in my head. I was like, yeah, I'll get this. Like I had looked at a 17-inch LG Gram, and I'm just like, I don't know about that one. I felt for the price, I could probably do a little bit better. Yeah, and like the ones that I was finding for that was used. But yeah, after a little while, Black Friday came up, and I was like, let's see what's out there. So I looked at some deals on Best Buy, and I was like, I almost bought this HP Victus, but then I did look at some of the reviews, and the screen quality on that thing was garbage. And screen's something that's important to me, and it makes it easier to work. I'm not having to like sit there and like squint at what I'm looking at, because it's too dim or anything like that, especially if I go outside. But what I found out is they had quite a few deals, and I went through quite a few different options, and I almost settled on one, and then I looked at another one, and I was like, this is only $100 more. I'm getting a much faster response, um, refresh rate. I'm getting, yeah, the graphics card was even. I was getting a little bit worse processor, but the keyboard was better. The battery life was better. The sound, the noise on it was better. So I eventually just pulled the trigger on a Acer Predator Helios Neo 16, which it's a really long name. I don't know why they decided that they need to do that, but it's a Windows laptop, and it's got like an RTX 4050 graphics card, and it's got an i5 13 something HX. I was able to go ahead and upgrade it from 16 gigabytes of RAM to 32 gigabytes of RAM, 500 gigabyte NVMe drive. I threw an extra 1 terabyte in there, and the RAM and additional SSD I already had on hand, so that didn't cost me anything additional. So yeah, it was only like $799, and I was like, I'll take it. So that worked out. But then I went to go install some stuff on there because I'm going to be doing some traveling. So I'm like, I'd like to, I don't want to take my whole home lab with me. So I'm like, well, I'll probably take my MacBook and that laptop. But I was like, I want to run some VMs on that one just because I can get a little bit better diversity because that one's an x86 processor. So I was like, all right, well, I'll download VirtualBox. When installing it, and then I went to go installed a Debian 12 virtual machine, and I'd completely forgotten about something. And I think this is an issue I've run into in the past, but I didn't do a video or anything about it. But I ran into an issue where it said command not found, and I'm like, I know this is installed on this system. So I was like, what the heck? And I'd completely forgotten what I did in the previous time this had happened. It's been a while since I've actually installed Debian 12 on a system. I think I've had it on the server for like, a few, like at least 3 or 4 months now. So I, I was like, what's going on here? So what I wanted to do is I wanted to go ahead and just take you through what the issue was and, kind of just troubleshooting that issue. So let's go ahead and jump in here. So, but before we go ahead and do that, I do have a favor to ask. If you like this type of video and want to see more content like it, make sure you are subscribed and hit the bell button for notifications. Also, don't forget to give this video a like if you like it. Let me know what you liked, didn't like, or if you have any comments, questions, concerns, or emotional outbursts down in the comments below. And lastly, stick around all the way to the end to get the most out of this video. Let's do this thing. And yeah, right now we're a little over 800 subscribers, so thank you for everyone who subscribed. So the next milestone we're going to be shooting for is 850. So make sure you do your part to get us to 850. Graciously appreciate that. So let's go ahead and jump to the desktop here. I've actually already got the virtual machine up and running. So when I set this virtual machine up, is I set a root password, and I also set a user, which is just the typical user that I set on a system, which is admin user. And I was like, okay, cool. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just add them to the sudo group once I get everything set up. And then I went in there to do that. And let me actually show that to you. Let me actually show you that they don't have sudo privileges. Sudo apt update. It's going to ask me for my password. And this user is not in the sudo file. So then I was like, all right, cool. So we did an su to root. All right, perfect. There we go. And then I ran user mod, lowercase a, capital G. I'm going to go ahead and put them in sudo, and then I'm going to put admin user. And, well, that's interesting. So user, like it says, user mod command not found. And this can be a very, very frustrating experience to deal with. And, this could be an issue of, let's just do an apt install. I can't remember what the package is for user mod. I think it's part of a bigger package, but yeah, see, it says unable to locate user mod, but that's not the issue here. And that's one thing you'll definitely want to check. But this is something that I already knew, because I was like, well, this is a basically a default command on any Linux distribution, so it's something that should be there. So what in the world is causing it? And let me show you something. Let me show you something here. So let me do user sbin user mod a g, and then we're going to do sudo, and then we're going to go ahead and do admin user. And look at that. You notice that we didn't get an error. And we can see here that the admin user is indeed in the sudo group. So like, what gives? It's clearly available. And this is something I remember. I was watching John Hammond, who does like a lot of security related content, and he was doing a video, and he kept putting in the full absolute path of the commands versus that. And I was like, what is he doing? Why is he doing that? And I don't think I watched the whole video, but it was just one of those things that made me think, and it's something that just stuck with me ever since then. And it's one of those things where I'm like, that's why would somebody do that? And eventually I found out exactly why somebody would do that. Now, the reason that is because it's not going to be the command itself is not in what is called your path. So what does that mean? All right, so there's actually a path environment variable, which basically tells the shell, hey, when I type in commands, search all these places. It says, hey, go here, go there, to make sure. Now, if you notice, we can see user bin here, but we don't see that user sbin. Now, if you're now making that connection that user sbin is not in the path, you are definitely 100% correct. And that's exactly what happened here. And let me actually show you some here. We're going to go over to Firefox, and I've got let me see here, path. Where is it? I've got a few different ones. This one right here. So I did a search. I did a Google search. How to update Linux path. And look here. The second option here is that one that I just had up. And this is how you're going to learn. Some people are like, oh yeah, you shouldn't need any help. Well, everybody needs help. You can sit here and go through different possibilities and drive yourself mad, trying to figure out what the possibility could be. But, you know, reach out. Somebody's probably had this problem before. And, honestly, like when it comes to like getting certified for stuff, honestly, in my opinion, that just gives you the necessary understanding and vocabulary to be able to ask the right questions. Because I remember like when I first got started, I remember when I was sitting for my CCNA and I'm just like, well, um, like I just like it just didn't make any sense to me. It just didn't. Like, and no matter how much I could study, like just working the stuff, it didn't. But it wasn't until I started like applying it and then actually like googling what things meant, because I'd look at these abbreviations, I'd look at why things happened, and all that kind of stuff. Because yeah, it's great to know that it's doing something, but if you don't really know what it's doing, you're not always gonna have the best understanding, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm not gonna cover the path in any more like the actual path itself, the path variable itself, in any more detail here, because I do plan on doing a follow-up video after this discussing that very variable, so you're able to go ahead and get that in more depth here. But I wanted to be able to go ahead and show a means to be able to go ahead and get that updated. So that's what we're going to do here. And we go through this. It gives us an introduction. It shows us how to view it, which we saw here when I did it, which we did echo path. And then here this is adding a directory to the path environment variable. So then what we're going to go ahead and do here is we're going to go ahead and use export, and we're going to do path equals and the path to it, and then we're going to go ahead and just put :path. All right, and then it says adding a directory to the start of the path means that it is checked first. Adding a directory to the end of the path. So the only difference is here is that we're putting it first. We're putting it first here because we want it at the beginning, and over here we're putting it last because we want it last. So I really don't care where it ends up. To me, it doesn't really matter, at least for the purposes that I typically use the system. So we're gonna go and copy that. Let's go ahead and go over to the command line. We're gonna go paste that in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and change this path right here. We're going to change it to user sbin. And if you're not familiar with the user sbin directory, so you have the user bin and the user sbin directories. Those are where all of your application binaries are at. So like when you call a command, that's where it's going to go. It's going to be like, yo, like, hey, I need the stuff for this command right here. And so it's going to check both of those. Well, bins, usually going to be associated with commands that aren't going to be, aren't going to require sudo, or, aren't really administrative type commands. Now there may be some in there that are used, but that's just kind of the way it's broken down. And then with sbin, that's where you're going to have more of your administrative, admin level, utilities there. And, they're going to require sudo and root privileges and stuff like that. So we want to make sure that we're able to go ahead and do that because, we want to make sure that we're able to have access. You can add this per user, and you can also add it on a global basis as well, but I'll show that when we do the next video. I just wanted to go ahead and show an easy solution here and just kind of a process of troubleshooting so that you kind of get an idea, just to try to reinforce it. Because a lot of these videos are going to be the same, but it's going to be, I want to reinforce like, hey, this is how you do it, but also give you a little bit of lesson, give you a little bit of background and all that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and do this here. We are already root, so we're good here. Now, if we do user mod ag, we're just going to do sudo admin user. There we go. We did not get that. We did not get that issue again, so it is now indeed fixed, and we can confirm that with echo. And I'm going to do path, and there we go. User sbin has been added to the file. So pretty cool stuff. So yeah, there's troubleshooting. Honestly, I actually like troubleshooting. I don't mind sitting there and trying to figure out what the problem is, Googling, searching for some, minutes, hours, and stuff like that. It definitely takes you on an adventure, and I always find those very, very interesting. So, make sure that, when you're working in, this type of like line of work and working on these things, is you want to approach it with curiosity. Curiosity, and don't try to be perfect. If you want to try to do something, try to be as imperfect as you possibly can, because that should have the opposite effect of trying to be perfect, where it's going to relax you and then you're going to be like, I don't care if I make mistakes here and ask questions and feel weak or whatever. So, and the goal here, and the goal of my channel is to really help educate people, put out videos that I would have wanted to watch, you know, and educate people, and then, you know, just do something that I enjoy, which is, you know, working with this stuff and recording video. So yeah. So last thing, you know, remember, mistakes make you better, so keep on making them. Thank you so much for watching my video, and have the greatest of days.